Bros. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We get the people what they want.
Joining us later on in the program are Detroit's own Boldy James and super producer Alchemist. They'll be joining us later, but we're going to start the show with the NFL action last night. Specifically, the New England Patriots facing off against the Washington football team. A lot of focus on the Patriots quarterback position. Cam Newton and rookie Mac Jones. Jalen, what do you think of their performances?
I know I'm not the smartest guy, but am I the first one to just get a little dyslexia looking at Cam and Mac spelled the same backwards? That's another subject for another day. Here's the deal. Cam Newton is going to be their starting quarterback. You don't have a seasoned veteran in his second year in the system who dealt with COVID last year. You don't bring him back as a different style of player and draft Mac Jones as high as you did and then start the young fella. The young fella showed a lot of promise in the game yesterday. Clearly, he showed promise at Alabama, which is why he's going to be their future. But to start this season, that's going to be Cam Newton's job.
Absolutely, I agree with you. This is Cam Newton's job. However, even before Mac Jones touched the ball, Gillette Stadium was on their feet, giving him a rousing applause. And you get the feeling that, yes, Cam Newton is the starter week one, but the starter of the future, the starter of this franchise moving forward year after year after year is Mac Jones, who played well. And there was one ball that he threw. I mean, 13 for 19 is good, but those are a lot of easy passes. But one ball he threw to the end zone I found really impressive. You see him on the left side here. Look at this ball. Was it a touchdown? No. Should it have been? Yes. But that is the type of play that they're going to expect from Jones, and maybe the type of play that you can't get from Cam Newton. Who do you think finishes the season as the starter?
I say Mac Jones and Cam Newton will have times where they both are on the field together. I think they'll have games where they both start throughout the year. But if they were about to play a playoff game, Cam Newton is the answer to that question.
I think that's a good point. And the other side of the ball, we have Chase Young. Chase Young is an absolute menace on defense. Jalen, can he improve upon his wonderful performance last year?
Fam, I'm just happy he in the league. Like, seriously, I've been watching this dude do this at Ohio State with the Bosa brothers, man. And it's no accident. The first third down, did he get a strip sack? Like, just think about that. If you're Washington, right, you can find ways to get the lead in the game or keep the game close or keep the team behind the chains and get them the third down. Oh, man, they in trouble. Because ain't no blocking this guy. Don't he look like that's how Von Miller was looking when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, like coming in off the edge like that. You know what? He going to be in conversation for MVP. Watch.
You know, I
because
definitely think he's in
have a
conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
Astronomical numbers.
So not just Defensive Player of the Year, you're saying he's going to be in the conversation for most valuable player in the league. Interesting prediction from Mr. Rose.
If Washington can be one of the best teams and even win the NFC least, it's going to be because of their defense. It's going to be because he's playing astronaut. He's going to flirt with the Michael Strahan sack record, Jacoby. That's going to put him in the MVP conversation.
Well, that defense is formidable. And another team in the NFC least trying to take that title are the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were in action last night. Jalen, I know you do not like it when your namesake is disrespected, and Jalen Hurts was not truly named the starter of this team. What do you think about his performance in limited time last night?
Hurts to Ertz. That's what I thought about it, and get used to it. And so I understand, again, that the coach, first year with the team, doesn't necessarily want to commit to saying Jalen Hurts is the starter. But you want to give your young player at quarterback confidence. Oh, and by the way, you know who they drafted in the first round? Do you know who Philadelphia drafted in the first round? This is what nobody's talking about. As much as we're talking about Hurts, There's a reason why they took the Heisman Trophy winner at wide receiver, Devontae Smith, that wide receiver, because they wanted to pair these guys together. And I know he wasn't available last night, but this is going to be an explosive duo going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at 3 for 754 yards. It wasn't a great performance on paper, but there was a drop from Hurts that could have been caught. There was also Jalen Reagor dropped one that could have been caught. So you've got Hurts to Ertz and Jalen to Jalen, and we haven't even seen Devontae Smith yet. I thought the most impressive performance last night that I saw in both games was Dwayne Haskins. You remember Dwayne Haskins? He played in the Big Ten. He sort of fizzled out in Washington with the football team, but he looked good for the Steelers. Is he a future starter in the NFL?
Yes, and probably a future starter with the Steelers. And follow me here. You draft Mac Jones, he's a different style of quarterback from Cam Newton. Cam Newton, older player, won't be there next year. You bring in Haskins behind Ben Roethlisberger, similar pocket-style quarterbacks. So therefore, if he can develop in the system, he could be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger.
Absolutely, and we mentioned that Jalen Hurts wasn't truly named the starter, which is kind of abnormal. You get this close to the regular season, but that's also the situation in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer takes over. They draft Trevor Lawrence. Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence are in a QB competition. Are you surprised that Urban hasn't committed to either, and who do you think he will go with?
I just know that Ryan Fitzpatrick and Gardner Minshew became folklore as quarterbacks. I'll just say this about number 1 overall picks. Sometimes you start them initially, sometimes you don't. And we've seen this happen the last couple of years. Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, they started right off of the top. Jameis Winston, he started right from the beginning. Other times you may choose to ease the quarterback in. Baker didn't start initially. He was one of the guys as a number 1 overall pick that did not start initially. So there are various degrees of how you play this, but here's what you don't do. Start Trevor Lawrence in the first preseason game. However, you give him a chance to get his confidence going, and you hope that you can start him for the first regular season game. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
It will be interesting to see how it plays out. And one way I think it's going to play out, without Tim Tebow on the team. Tim Tebow has been listed as the 4th tight end for the Jaguars, and I do not think that they will carry 4 tight ends into the regular season. You haven't heard a lot of Tebow updates, and some tell me there's a reason why. Well, I'm sure it won't be the last time we talk about Tim Tebow, even if he doesn't make the team. It is now time for you and I to break down some video in detail. Let's go to the table. I love a pool. I love going to pools. Pools are great for the family, but pools are also dangerous, as you know, when you almost drowned as a child. Well, Andre Drummond has a pool, and he had his 2-year-old son on the side of the pool, and let's just watch what happened. Mr. Rose, we're both dads. You know that feeling of the kid next to the pool? He goes in, there goes Andre Drummond, clothes and all. What do you think about this?
I know that feeling, and by the way, great anticipation, because he saw him walk to the edge. And since that's his son, he knows himself. And he thought, what would I do if I was my son? And it would be, I would jump in. So that's why he was already anticipating. I've been that guy, dog. Let me tell you something. I was inspired by Steve Austin, the $6 million man. I told myself I was going to get a running start, jump off of the fence, and jump over the entire pool. It didn't work. I fell in. I was drowning. And rest in peace to my Uncle Paramore, who saved my life, just like Andre Drummond did for his son.
I do want to look at the video one more time and just ask you a simple question. Does Andre Drummond ask the guy in the red that does not react what he was doing? Because he had to pay past. Andre Drummond went right past him. You take a look at the video one more time, you will see the guy in the red at the edge of the pool. You'll see, and him getting not the most athletic way to get out of a pool right there either. Now, Jay, look at that. Like, not the most, like, he's struggling. Like, dog, you're a professional athlete. You know, you're a professional athlete, Andre. That's how you get out of a pool. You sit down.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. He is a professional athlete. Look at that backyard. He rich on rich on rich. He didn't have a lifeguard back there, Dre.
Kobe, Jalen Rose, we knew it was going to happen, and it has happened. Kawhi Leonard has officially signed with the Clippers. The details of the deal are as such: 4 years, option on the fourth, with $176.3 million. Now, he is rehabbing from a surgery. What do you think his approach to this season will be? Will we see him play for the Clippers?
I would be surprised, actually, if we see him play Jacoby. Now, the Clippers are really well coached by Tyronn Lue, for everybody that was underestimating his greatness after he won a championship with LeBron James and the Cavs. But Kawhi Leonard was already a player that was dealing with recurring injuries that needed maintenance. And so now when you add another surgery to that, if you're required to be out a couple of months already, and then all of a sudden the team isn't like a top 2 or 3 seed, it's almost like, is he coming back in January, February, or is he coming back in February, March? That's a big distinction in an NBA calendar. So based on those factors, as much as I would love to see him play clearly this year, and hopefully finally see Paul George and Kawhi play a playoff series against LeBron and AD, I say I would take the under, and we still don't see them play against one another this year in the playoffs.
It's really interesting. I mean, based on the timetable and the history of this injury, it seems like he could come back with like 10, 15 games left in the regular season, get his legs underneath him, and then make a playoff push. But however, everything we know about Kawhi Leonard is he's very cautious with his medical stuff. He's very cautious when it comes to returning to the court, playing every game, playing lots of minutes. So like you, I don't think he sees the court even in the playoffs for the Clippers. And the Clippers, without Kawhi Leonard, don't really stack up in the Western Conference. What are your expectations for this team if they don't have Kawhi?
I don't expect them to be a team that advances past the first round, even if they make the playoffs, because the West continues to get more stout. Klay Thompson is returning. I seen Luka just re-sign with the Mavs. I anticipate Kristaps Porzingis to have a better season. So as I'm thinking about the lower part of the Western Conference, they may be a team that can find its way into the playoffs, but I have to go with what I initially felt and thought. Coming back later in the season doesn't just seem like something that he's going to do or be willing to do. However, that would be great theater to get Kawhi Leonard back late in the season and the Clippers are hovering around the play-in or the 7th seed, and then all of a sudden you get the Clippers as a lower seed going against some of the higher seeded teams in the Western Conference. Now that'd be something I'll sign up to watch for.
You've been dreaming about a Clippers-Lakers series every year since LeBron got there, and you just haven't gotten it yet. You bring it up every single year, and it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe that'll be the scenario in which it happens. Another one of those teams that I expect to be kind of around the play-in, the 6th seed, the 7th seed, the 8th seed in the Western Conference are the Portland Trail Blazers. And all the conversation around the Trail Blazers is Dame Lillard and his happiness. Well, we're going to do the thing that I like to do, read way too much into a tweet. He put this tweet up in response to someone saying, how much you want to bet the NBA season starts, the Lakers still get Dame Lillard. He said, bet $1 million. Now, I don't think he's going to the Lakers, but what do you think he's trying to say with this tweet?
If I'm Portland, here's what I'm trying to say. If you're the GM, Neil O'Shea, you just hired Chauncey Billups, who I'm telling everybody is going to do a terrific job with that team. Dame Lillard still has multiple years left on his contract. He's a legitimate franchise player. I ain't trading him, dog. I ain't trading him, dog. You called me about Dame this offseason, voicemail. And who listens to voicemails these days? Not me.
Nobody.
Not me. Do you listen to voicemails these days?
No, you're the only person that
Okay,
leaves voicemails.
so don't even
you're the
call
only
me
person
about
that
Dame
leaves
Dollar this year.
voicemails. Well, here's one thing that I would say. If I'm Neil O'Shea and I get the phone call and you're calling me, you're Dale Morey calling me about Dame, I say, I'm not gonna hang up. I'll say, we're not talking about Dame, but if you want to talk about CJ and some pieces or CJ and a pick, then maybe Ben Simmons could end up on the Blazers. That's my ideal scenario for this franchise is they keep Dame and they trade a lot of pieces to bring in Ben Simmons later in the season. We'll see if that happens. Jalen Rose, today is a very special day. Not only is it Friday, today is the release of Bo Jackson, the newest project from producer Alchemist and Detroit's own rapper, Boldy James. And when you release, if you're from Detroit and you release an album, we have to have you on the podcast. Here is a small sample of our podcast interview with Boldy James and Alchemist. The full interview is on our podcast today. Boldy, you're about as Detroit as they come. Now, I know you're excited about Cade Cunningham joining the Pistons. What do you expect from the #1 pick next season with the Pistons?
Oh, I expect buckets. You know what I'm saying? I expect buckets, and I expect more wins out of the guys, man. You know, we just need to raise that Lion team spirit, and hey, Detroit, we can make Detroit great again. You know.
Now, Al, you grew up in Los Angeles. Time to talk about your Lakers. How do you feel about Russell Westbrook, the new addition to your team?
I mean, to be honest, I couldn't be happier. He's an LA native, so it's just going to hit different. You know, he's home. He gets to play in his home court. You know, it's something special about growing up in the city and then being able to play for that team. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about the new acquisitions. Of course, he's going to go crazy. And, yeah, I want to go to some games. I'll be there.
Al, so the Clippers added Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. The Lakers added LeBron James and AD, but they haven't faced each other in the playoffs just yet. So as a longtime Laker fan and somebody that grew up 10 toes down there, what do you say for the people who feel like the Clippers have a chance to finally not only win a championship, but to hope to make it a Clipper town?
I mean, the second part is a tall order. Let's say last year they came very close, and I feel like they really had a shot last year. You're happy to see them do good, but I'm Lakers all the way.
Boldy, to that point, you've done some interviews and mentioned your own basketball game. Are you out here getting buckets? You playing pickup? What is your game like?
Al will tell you, I'm money on the court. I mean, you know, a lot of the young guys, they still can't do nothing with me on the court. I probably done lost a step or three, but you know, in my prime, I would have gave J. Rose 81 olives.
Okay. Hey,
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, one of my favorite athletes of all time is Usain Bolt. I just love his style. I love his dominance. I love him so much. One of your favorite athletes, the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. These two have been going back and forth a little bit. Usain Bolt was on the Dan Patrick Show, and he said that he would race Tyreek Hill in a 70-yard race. Jalen Rose, I got Usain Bolt in this, hands down. It's going to be a blowout. Who do you got?
How about this? I'm happy that we're having this conversation, and I want to salute both of these great athletes. And you can't take anything away from the cheetah. But you see that running and cutting and those joystick moves? That works playing football wearing pads. I'm going Usain Bolt in a straight line race. Okay, my money's on that guy. And you know what else my money's on? Bo Jackson. I'm about to listen to Alchemist and Boldy James all weekend. You go cop it and do the same thing. See y'all on Monday, 2 p.m.